Yeah.
most other people, again, it becomes inclusionary and exclusionary instead of being ecumenical,
Yeah.
which is the fundamental conception of the Catholic Church is to be ecumenical, except that the Vatican does not follow that. Okay, and in fact, basically, there's a famous theologian. His name is Hans Küng, still alive in Switzerland, who questioned the fact that the Vatican wasn't really up to snuff with its own mission of being ecumenical. And he was told that he couldn't teach Catholic tradition, Catholic faith anymore. So he acquired the equivalent of an ecumenical chair at the university in Switzerland where he was. He's a very old man now. Hans Küng, very famous worldwide. He was at Princeton, as a matter of fact, when he was told that he could no longer teach the Catholic faith, because he had just written a book entitled Does God Exist? Okay, Hans Küng. And in which book, again, he tried to argue for an ecumenical view of, that the Shinto tradition in Japan or the Buddhist tradition, etc., also make sense, which says, okay, if they make sense, then when you can't be Catholic and so on and so forth, okay? And he saw millions. When the news came out that because of that book he had been he had lost his chair, he sold millions worldwide of the book. I think it was written in German originally. I can't quite remember. But anyway, that is the backdrop I can give you.
Do you think your religious background has anything to do with the way you think about human rights, or the way you have become activists?
Well, again, it's because of my own interpretation of the Catholic Church in its ideal form, to be ecumenical and embrace, be all-embracing. Inside Christianity, as you may know, there is a huge debate that continues to this day between Protestants and Catholics, going back to the Protestant Revolution of the 16th century. And the Protestants insist that the true Christianity entails an individual act of faith and an individual relationship to God, which relationship cannot be mediated, to use a polite term, or better to say that there's no power that should interfere with that relationship. Okay? Whereas in the Catholic tradition, the priesthood and the churches, the paraphernalia, the saints, etc., are all there to help us mediate our relationship between the individual and God. And this, so that the Protestants believe that the church should be many, as many as there are individuals, effectively, ultimately. Any individual can start a church, okay? And we know all about that here in these US of A, right? Okay. So whereas the Catholic tradition insists that the churches should be one. As a matter of fact, Hans Küng was asked, why don't you become Protestant? And he says, because I believe that Christ wanted the church to be one, not many. Okay? So he too is trying to hang on to this ideal type of the ecumenical spirit, which again dovetails, at least in my view, very well with human rights and the universality of Amnesty International. Okay? The human rights have nothing to do with the specificity of a particular country, a particular way of looking at life. They transcend specific cultures. They enable us to recognize one another as human beings and to communicate, to share, and to enrich one another through our differences. The idea is not to coerce others to become like me. or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
but rather to gain the emotional strength and the intellectual apparatus
Mm-hmm.
to be able to recognize and respect and admire others in their way of thinking and being without becoming them,
Yeah.
okay, and vice versa. All right.
Wow.
So,
Okay. That explains it really well. Wow.
all right. Well, if that helps, that's wonderful.
That's great.
You're a young woman, and I am at a point in life where I'm trying to pass on tidbits
Oh.
of my understanding
That's
and
great.
and knowledge. Okay. Go ahead.
Wow. Do you is any of your family member involved in amnesty, or you are the only person?
No, I have brought my daughter once to the concert. I believe I brought
Yeah?
my son.
Uh-huh.
I brought friends, etc. But I am not proselytizing
Uh-huh.
member. I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that Amnesty International is a very well-known organization. There are now several other organizations that are strong in human rights, and the people that I bring to the concert are perfectly capable of taking the option that I myself took. So by just bringing them over to the concert, I have done my job in terms of proselytizing. Okay?
So, was either of your parents active in politics or community
No.
service or church
No.
activity? No, nothing.
No, not
so you
really.
just made yourself
Yeah.
into this activist who will put
Right, but there is
the-
always, again, there is always a tradition that one has. For example, my father was a small businessman. He died young, unfortunately, but he was an independent businessman in the old country. And after World War II, he was a keen observer of the political scene. And the thing that I remember of him is that he appreciated, above all, the debates, the political debates that took place in the country after the war, where you have so many parties.
Yeah.
So he was coming as a young man from a world of one party, one way of thinking, one idea, okay, and discovered that one and the same topic could be looked at from so many different points of view, and that democracy consists in that debate. So long as you are sitting around the table, engaged in that debate, you are fostering democracy. Why? Because as long as you're engaged in the debate, you recognize that other people have other people's point of view on that one topic has merit, just like yours. And the idea is not that mine is better, mine is the one, and yours is not good, and therefore we can't come to any agreement. On the contrary, the agreement you want to come to is the one that somehow encompasses all those points of view. An agreement that integrates these points of view, or to put it in common terminology that we have here, where everybody is a piece of the action. Okay, so that is what I remember from my father about how to go about thinking.
So he used to
Politics and political,
talk to
but he
you
was
about
not an activist. He was not a member of the party and go out and again proselytize. No, perhaps that's why I'm not either.
That's interesting. What about your mother?
She was not involved in that. She was a housewife.
Yeah. Okay.
An old style, Japanese style housewife.
Yeah.
But then when she came to America, she went to work. She worked in the service of a school, serving kids and the cleaning and all those things. And so she acquired her own independent identity, and that she was forever grateful to America for having given her the opportunity to become her own person, particularly because my father died so young. I was only 56 years old when he just had a heart attack and died shortly after we came to America. So he never really, he was never really able to fulfill his own American dream, quote unquote, in the first person. Okay, so.
Do you get any reaction from your family member or friends around you about you being an active member of Amnesty?
Very interesting question, okay, because like my brother, we're very close. We are in the same business right now. We're working in commercial real estate, okay, but not for skyscrapers, not that big, but more for what's known as affordable housing. Run-of-the-mill brownstones all over the city and the metro area, retail shops and so on, that type of real estate that we're into at this point. He knows very well that I am involved with Amnesty International, but I do not proselytize, and he accepts that this is something I do. And I have other colleagues. I have colleagues too who know. And I don't get any response from them in terms of saying, well, gee, let me join, or no.
Your brother, is it younger than you?
Yeah, he's 2 years younger.
And you have just one brother?
Right, well, I had a sister, but she died young of cancer. So, that's it's a very interesting question. I refuse to proselytize, but I do make it known that I am a member, etc.
Yeah.
Right? So
Interesting.
Maybe I'll invite my brother to come to the concert one year about that.
Yeah. That's nice. I have one sister. She's older than me, and she's completely different from me, and she probably doesn't even know that I'm a board member of Amnesty because we don't talk about this. I don't know. I'm not hiding it, but it's just very different. She lives in a different world. Yeah. Okay. One question I ask everybody is, do you think what you do as an Amnesty member has an impact on the human rights situation? Do you think it has a substantive impact?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Because we can see it from our book, and that is, of course, the uniqueness of Amnesty International. The capacity to affect the life of another individual. And since each and every one of us lives our lives as individual human beings, one person, I believe strongly to this day that the letter writing, so long as it reaches people, really has an impact in and of itself on the person that receives these, if not on the so-called governments, etc., in many cases.
Do you think the letter writing is the most important activity of Amnesty?
I think it needs to continue as the centerpiece, even though, as I'm suggesting, the organization needs to take itself systematically onto a new level where you balance out the campaigns that encompass broader issues and the campaigns that retain the original mandate of Amnesty International, which is to work one-on-one with individual prisoners. How to square that circle? Someone like yourself can play a big role, so long as you think through how you would best integrate these two. Because the activity of writing letters is a very intimate affair. The other is, by definition, an impersonal affair, because you are trying to think in abstract terms. And as you know very well, those abstract terms embody viewpoints, necessarily. It's no longer a person passing on his or her emotional charge to another person, but rather an individual, a group of individuals that are giving voice to certain ways of thinking. Which need to be calibrated and modulated, in my view, to suit the overall mission of Amnesty International, which is always focused on human rights of people who are being abused in one way or the other. So,
you said at the time you joined Amnesty, Amnesty was the only organization that could address the problem you're interested in, but there are many different organizations now. What do you think is the unique aspect of Amnesty that makes that it has to be Amnesty for you?
writing letters and working one-on-one with prisoners. No other organization does that.
Right.
One of the issues that we have in embracing larger scale campaigns above and beyond the individual, which again are by their nature impersonal, is that many other organizations are doing the same thing, and they are much better structured right now to do that. Human Rights Watch, for example, received several years ago a $100 million endowment. So they have a research infrastructure like an institute to be able to pursue these kinds of issues from the general to the particular. Okay? Whereas Amnesty always works from the particular, the ground level, and then expands out from that ground level. Complementary ways of promoting human rights. Okay? But Amnesty does have this long-term challenge of taking itself from the individual, particular level onto a broader global platform without losing its identity in the individual relationship, one-on-one. The media that we have today, let me put it this way also on this point, and it harks back to the book. The media that we have today did not exist when Amnesty was created, and for most of its existence up to the 2000, last 15 years, let's say. Okay? In that, now we have impersonal forms of exchange and communication that did not exist, beginning with emails. We have the Twitters and the Facebooks and so on and so forth. All of these means of communication, so-called, and information, give us the illusion of personalization. Okay? But nothing could be more impersonal than Facebook or a Google search, etc. Okay? The only thing that is truly personal is the face-to-face exchange that we are having today, and the writing of a letter to a distant person. Because historically, the only way you could reach a distant person was through a letter. And that was, the letter links us all the way back, at least in the West, to the Phoenicians. I don't know how familiar you may be, but